Of course, I wanted to do something special for this broadcast on a Saturday, since you're taking time to spend with me, and talk about the book Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Why is this important? This is probably the most important book on meditation ever written. And beyond that, is probably the best book on spirituality, or certainly one of them ever written. Practical spirituality in terms of actual technique. If you want a grimoire to follow, if you want something that will give you a step-by-step guidebook, workbook to mastering your mind, this is it. This has been it for centuries. It will be it for centuries to come. It's a classic. And it's often used by yoga teachers in yoga teacher training. And you'll often find people talking about it in Hatha yoga classes, but that's only scraping the surface. The reason that we're interested in talking about this book is that it's a book about magic. Magic specifically meaning harnessing your mind to be able to do what you want to do in life. It is, in my perspective, the user's manual for the human mind, and we would all do well to study it. So why am I talking about this book? Obviously, we have a new course out at magic.me, but let's really dig into this. So the new course is Mastering Meditation. It is a mega course. It is like Adept Initiative, Alchemy of Chaos, all the other mega courses. It is probably, in fact, it is the best magic.me course yet. It's not quite as flashy as some of the others. I will readily say that. We're not talking about magic and money and manifesting and, chaos magic and all that cool stuff, but it is the most important one, and it is the most serious one. It is an 8-week course for serious students, serious meditators, people who really, really, really want to master the core technique of meditation, which in my opinion is the most important thing you could possibly be doing with your time outside of probably looking after your physical health. I don't think that that's an exaggeration. Next to physical exercise and diet, meditation is the most important thing you can do for yourself. It will improve everything you do in life because it improves your mind. It is exercise for the mind, to the point where it actually increases the gray matter in your brain, just like physical exercises increases muscle. Okay, what does that mean? It means that whatever you do in life, whatever it is, professionally, personally, spiritually, meditation will help you do it better. And there's no cap to that. The more you do it, the better you get at whatever it is that you do. So that includes your career, your finances, your personal relationships with the people that you care most about. Meditation will make your appreciation of life greater. It will make sex better. It will make listening to music better. It will make watching movies better and reading. It will even lengthen your lifespan. And there's a whole ton of research coming out about this recently, that meditation will actually lengthen your telomeres, which I'm not a scientist, but are genetic markers for how long you're going to live. So the more that meditation is studied, and it is studied a lot scientifically. This is one thing at magic.me where there are stacks and stacks and stacks of scientific studies. The more that it is studied scientifically, the more people realize how critical it is. And it, of course, in my opinion, should be a cornerstone of 21st century medicine and beyond. It should have been all along, but as we go forward, meditation should be pushed for everyone as the key to a happy, fulfilling, successful, and fulfilling life. So if that is the case, and in fact, I don't even like the word meditation because it sounds really boring. I would like the phrase evolution because it truly is the technique that allows human evolution. If that's the case, why is meditation so boring? Why does it seem so boring? When I talk about meditation, you probably think about like candles and incense and, Deepak Chopra whispering soothing things into your ear, and overall kind of the feeling of like, yeah, that would be a nice thing to do if I had the time, but what is it really going to get me other than just kind of feeling kind of good and smug that I did it. The reason that you feel that way is because our culture doesn't understand meditation and has been pushing all these kind of new age, soft focus images of what it is for a long time that we're all kind of inculcated with through the media, that are not anywhere near the actual thing. It's been pushed as a lifestyle brand. People basically market meditation like it's an antidepressant, right? I mean, if you really think about it and you look at media about meditation, it's kind of similar to like pharmaceutical commercials. Like, what could be any less, what could be less exciting? But at the same time, meditation is the most intense. It is the most hardcore. Yes, it underlies every other spiritual discipline and technique, but it is also the most potent, direct, intense, and visceral when you really get into it. Meditation is going into the cavern of your own mind and confronting the dragon that is you, or at least the part of you, the illusory part of you that you think is you. It is self-confrontation in the best possible way. It is the technique that we have to go from being animal to something more, in the classic schemes of things, whether it's the Buddhist scheme of things or even the medieval Christian scheme of things, which I think is quite underrated, the great chain of being, which I talked about in my John Dee book. The conception of the universe, the spiritual conception of the universe, is that there is spiritual evolution in addition to physical evolution. So of course with physical evolution we get, mineral, vegetable, animal, reptile, mammalian, things like that, hominid, primate, etc. In the spiritual sense of things, there are levels as well. And specifically for human beings, we are considered to be, in the medieval Christian view, in between animal and angel. And in the Buddhist worldview, it's the same. Humans are considered to be between the animal and the Devic realm of consciousness, or the demigod realm of consciousness. Right? Humanity, as Nietzsche said at the beginning of the 20th century, is a ladder, or rather a bridge. Man, or humanity, is a bridge between the animal and the superhuman. And that right there, as I've said in some of my courses, is the core idea of the 20th century and the 21st century. That is the most important idea of the 20th century. The idea that human beings are not a finished state. We are in the process of becoming something greater. Well, it turns out that there is a way to do this, to become the higher state, to become the higher human being. And it's not transhumanism, it's not genetic modification, it's not, supplements or putting Neuralink chips in your brain. It's meditation, and we've had it for thousands of years. The process of becoming more than human is to practice meditation so that, yes, you can silence the linguistic part of your brain that thinks that it's you, but also so that you can literally increase the gray matter in your brain to the part that you can do things cognitively that other people just can't do. And I know that we like the idea of equality and everybody having an equal shot and everybody being equal and things like this, but at the same time, there's a huge difference between me and Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. There's no comparison. In the same way, I'm just not equal to Arnold there. But in the same way that an advanced meditator is just not equal to somebody who has never even attempted to train their brain. Somebody who has never attempted to train their brain, which, by the way, is just about everyone, is food. They're prey for other people's will. They are easily distracted by their phone, by the media, by politics, by other people disrupting them, interrupting them, people having questions. Human beings are thrown about like ships in a storm. And by the way, it's not a conspiratorial thing. It's just that the planet is full of half evolved beings who don't have the capacity to be able to focus and to be able to focus to the point to achieve what the Western magical tradition calls their true will, simply because they haven't put in the work, they haven't done the exercise, and they haven't developed their brain to that point. So if I was to give a completely materialist, reductionist view of magic, meditation, and spirituality, which I always strive to do, it's simply that. It's exercise for your physical brain in the same way that physical exercise is for your body. So mastering meditation, the course at magic.me is, and I say this with some hubris, but I think it's also true, the best course on meditation currently available, certainly on the internet. If you want to go to India and find a guru, that will be better. But short of that, the best thing, a real one, there's a lot of fake ones, but short of that, the best meditation course I think available to Western people right now is Mastering Meditation at magic.me. We knocked out all the stops on this one. The reason it's so good is not because of something that I came up with, by the way, but because I've spent 20 years studying the actual tradition and going to India and studying with gurus and going up into the Himalayas, 13,000 feet, to do things like meditate at the shrine where Ram meditated at the beginning of the Ramayana War. I've done it. I've been there. I spent most of my life pursuing this in many, many, many different styles: Buddhist, Hindu, even Muslim Sufi meditation styles, even Christian meditation styles, and of course all the stuff from Golden Dawn and Western esoteric tradition that we know and love. So although I do not present myself as a guru because I'm not one, I'm just a guy on the internet, I do know my stuff, and I'm very confident in presenting this material to the public as, I think, as a truthful representation of the true tradition. And the true tradition, if you're asking, is Raja Yoga, the eightfold path of yoga. It's thousands of years old, but it's gone through some stages of development. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which we're going to talk about in a second, is one of the best codifications of it from the Middle Ages. And it is a scientific method, and I don't mean scientific in the sense of Richard Dawkins scientific, but scientific in the sense of empirical. It is repeatable. There are steps there are graded steps to meditation that if anyone follows, no matter who they are, their background, race, gender, orientation, it does not matter, age, by the way, it doesn't matter, they will achieve profound results that they did not think were possible in the space of a human life. Meditation will give you let's just start at the surface level. Okay, meditation will make you feel so high that it will, when you really get into it, that it will supersede anything you can get from even hard street drugs. And someone I met assured me this was the case. You can produce pure bliss states out of your brain on command for free forever. And if that doesn't sound enticing, I don't know what is. But that's just the beginning, because it is from that field of bliss consciousness that intelligence itself begins to increase, improve, and evolve. And this is not New Age spirituality, okay? This is not wishful thinking. This is not astrology. This is not, I channeled a message that said we're ascending from the earth plane. This is not, far off in the future something this is going to happen. No, this is physical exercise, okay? It is deep breathing techniques. It is posture techniques. It is mental focus techniques that if you follow them and you get good at them, will produce results. And there's nothing supernatural about it, although the results may certainly seem that way. This is not wishful thinking. This is real. Every single part of this, every graded step of this is real, tangible, and I will teach you how to do it in this course. Anyone can do it. Everyone should do it. And although I am of the mind that any meditation is good meditation, and I'm glad that there is so much interest in meditation in the world right now, and things like mindfulness and even apps like Headspace and things like that. Although that's good, it's a good step. It's a little pinky toe in the shallow end of the pool. I also have to tell you, it is not nearly anywhere near the real core tradition of meditation. It's not. And just so to qualify that, to be specific about that, when I say the real core tradition of meditation, there's a couple ones, there's several of them in the world, but the ones that I rate highest, at least at this point in my life with this level of experience, and I'm always open to new information, but at this point, the two that I find to be the most pure, core, direct, effective, and real are Raja Yoga, which is what I teach in this course, and Vipassana, which is Theravada Buddhism. First turning of the Dharma, first second turning actually of the Dharma, before we even get into Mahayana or Vajrayana or any, if you know Buddhism, or any of the kind of more magical shamanic techniques, just core Buddhist meditation, just the initial teachings of the Buddha. That stuff is profound as well. And I do teach that stuff in a few other courses, specifically the Magic and Meditation of Buddhism course and the Alchemy of Chaos course. I kind of touch on the basics of that. But Raja Yoga, I have a tremendously more amount of experience in, and I am very, very confident. There's many things in my life that I'm not confident of, but one of the things I am truly confident of is my ability to teach this material without hesitation. And I can say without ego, and it is not that I'm great, it's just that I put so much time into this. I can say without ego that you're going to get a better education in this stuff in my course than just about anywhere else you can in the world right now. And in addition to that, there's tons of information in the course about where you can go to find people who know more than I do. But it is really good to get all the foundationals down, all the basics. You don't need a guru for that. You don't need to go to India. You just need somebody to clearly explain it to you. And I'm very good at that. So, Mastering Meditation, the link is in the bio. It is an 8-week course, but it starts out very, very light. It will not require more than 5 minutes a day at the beginning, so you'll be able to ease into it. So if your schedule is too packed, don't worry. By the end of the course, by 8 weeks, you'll be meditating an hour a day. The point of the course is not just to tell you about meditation, it is to turn you into a meditator. But we ease you into that because the world is complicated. You will need time to restructure your life in such a way to support, for instance, morning meditation and things like that. And life is hectic and stressful these days, as we all know. So the course is designed for modern people, and anyone will be able to do it. The only reason why you might not be able to do the course is if there is some physical disability that might prevent you from holding yoga poses for long periods of time or deep breathing. However, the practices are adaptable, and we are happy to work with you on adapting the practice based on your individual needs. And if you want to talk to a physician as well, but if you do think there may be some physical requirements, you can email us. The email is at the site, and we're happy to work with you on modifying the practice. I want everyone to be able to do this. If you don't speak English, if you are hearing impaired, no problem. All the courses, all the units, which are already all recorded, it's all done. Everything is transcribed, and you can easily translate it with Google Translate in Google Chrome. So anyone should be able to take it, thanks to modern technology. Okay, so tell you what, I'm going to talk about Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is a fairly large book, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, obviously, but I'm just going to touch on a little bit of the basics, because I think it'll be interesting. And if this goes well, I actually want to do potentially a whole podcast about it. And then I will potentially take a few questions at the end. So if you have questions, I'm not looking at the chat right now, but if you have questions, save them up, and then you can type them in at the end when I ask for questions. So this is the Mukunda Styles translation, and as you can see, it's kind of written in epigraphs like the Tao Te Ching or something like that. But don't be fooled, this is not a poetic book. Each one of these is a specific instruction. This is a grimoire. So chapter 1, Samadhipada, on being absorbed in spirit. So what I'm going to be talking about here is the philosophy of yoga, and I should clarify really quick, what does yoga mean? Commonly, you will often hear people saying that yoga means union with God. It's more direct than that, I think. Yoga means a technique. So think of it like magical system, okay? It means a spiritual technique. I think that is the most effective way to think about it. One other point of clarification, meditation versus yoga. So when we hear yoga, we automatically think Hatha yoga, right? We think flexi bendy yoga that you can do down at your local yoga studio next to the Starbucks. That stuff is interesting, but it's calisthenics. It's only a yoga, and it in itself is not a full spiritual path. It is very supportive for meditation. It is very supportive for spirituality, but it's just physical exercise, okay? The thing that's really good about it is that it will help you hold meditation postures for long periods of time, but it in itself is kind of a sideshow, right? And people love it because it helps them look good and they look hot and, they get to meet people and all that. But the yoga that I'm talking about, Raja Yoga, is meditation, okay? Or more specifically, the Eightfold Path of silencing your mind. And so what I'm going to begin with here is with Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, is some of just a little bit of the philosophy of how the yogic school sees the mind and the problem itself, right? Okay, so on being absorbed in spirit. Number one, with great respect and love, now the blessings of yoga instruction are offered. Okay. 2, yoga is experienced in that mind which has ceased to identify itself with its vacillating waves of perception. Yoga is experienced in that mind which has ceased to identify itself with its vacillating waves of perception. Okay, so think about that for a bit. Vacillating waves of perception obviously means the input of your 5 senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, etc. Right? And think how overstimulated we are these days. I mean, obviously, phones, YouTube, email, every text, things are coming at us a billion times a second. So this is particularly stressful and poignant these days. But even so, even if you were in the middle of the forest or the desert, you would still be seeing your sense perceptions. And if you are like almost everyone on the planet, you are identifying yourself with them. You think it's you. You think the illusion is you. You think, in modern terminology, the matrix is you. The matrix is not a computer simulation. It's your senses. Your brain is an organ that intakes sensory data and makes a picture out of it. But the picture is not real. It's just something that your brain is creating from input that you can't actually interact with. So right out of the gate, the Yoga Sutras identify the problem. The problem is you're identified with all this stuff that's not you. And if you go in further, even if you shut off all your eyes and close your ears and all of that, you've still got dreams and imagery and your mental dialogue and all that internal stuff, which also is not you. It's also Maya or samsara. It's also illusion, right? It's just an internal level of illusion, right? So you've got the internet out here of the world, which is illusion. You've got your own computer in here, which is also illusion. Those are both things that you, the true you, are interacting with, but are not actually you. Okay, so right out of the gate, the problem is defined. 3, when this happens, meaning the mind ceases to identify itself with its vacillating waves of perceptions, when you realize that it's not you, when this happens, then the seer is revealed, resting in its own essential nature, and one realizes the true self. When this happens, then the seer is revealed, resting in its own essential nature, and one realizes the true self. What is the tagline at Magic.me? Unleash your true self, if you've seen. So what is the true self? It's not you, but more awesome, right? It's not some angelic light Photoshop being. It's the core nature of your consciousness. So a better way to think about this is if, like in a movie theater, obviously you have this whole movie that is projected by a movie projector, right? And you think the movie's real. You get so wrapped up in it that you think it's actually happening. You identify with the characters. You get all emotional and you go on an emotional roller coaster and all of this. But if at any time you turn around in the theater, you'll just see a little speck of light, like a little flashlight, light beam projecting the movie. That's what yoga is, okay? If I was to really simplify it, that's what yoga is. It is turning around in the movie theater and looking at that which projects consciousness, the projector of consciousness, rather than the projection. Okay, and I don't think I can make it much clearer than that. The point of yoga is to turn around in the movie theater. And I'm not putting any mythology on this or cosmology or anything about gods or goddesses or matrix or samsara or Maya or Gnosticism or demi or any of that stuff, okay? It's just turn around in the movie theater. and look at that which consciousness is being projected from within yourself, not that which consciousness is perceiving. Okay. That is the path to resting in your own essential nature. It's not as easy as it sounds, though, hence the practice of the Eightfold Path of Yoga. There's an actual method, a step-by-step, rational, scientific, empirical method to do this that does not require believing anything, does not require any New Age, antics, does not require anything except following specific postures, breathing methods, and withdrawal of consciousness internally into a single point. Okay, 4. At all other times, the self appears to assume the form of thoughts, vacillations, and the true self is lost. Okay, at all other times, the self appears to assume the form of thoughts, vacillations, and the true self is lost. Pretty straightforward. I mean, it's like you're perceiving all of this. And this doesn't just mean waking existence, it also means dreams when you're asleep, everything. Your emotions, your feelings, you're thinking about what's going to happen. If you're into magic, it also includes magical experiences, visions, ESP, precognition, telepathic dreams, synchronicity, all of that stuff is also part of the movie. It's also part of the movie. It's not your true self. It is projected by consciousness. It's just more stuff. It's more stuff. The world of magic and spirituality and all that is also more illusion. Something that becomes very apparent when you begin to practice yoga and meditation, which is why yoga and meditation are the primary techniques of world spirituality, period. They allow you not to develop a new illusion for yourself, but to cut through the illusion and get to that which is, rather than get caught up in the story, the illusion, or somebody else's mythology, somebody else's religion, somebody else's story. It is acid. It cuts all the way through and shows you the truth, which is just the fact that your mind is projecting all of it, including supposedly spiritual things. Okay, 5. The vacillations are of 5 types, which may be either painful or not painful. 6. The 5 vacillations, meaning the things that the mind does that are not actually your true self. The 5 vacillations are correct perception, misconception, imagination, sleep, and memory. Okay, so let's go backwards in order through that, okay? So what Patanjali is saying here is that these are the vacillations or movement of mind in a very simple way throughout your existence, throughout your day, right? So at some point in your day, your mind's going to be doing one of these 5 things, but none of them are actually your true self. So number 1, memory, right? Thinking back, imagining, remembering things that happened, lamenting things that happened, regretting or longing for the past, things like this. None of that is real. It's just your brain doing something, right? The other people that were there don't remember it the same way. You don't remember it correctly because your brain has changed over time. Your mind is just doing something that seems real. But as somebody said, the past is a foreign country. You can't get there, right? It's like you're not able to perceive it correctly, and you never perceived it correctly in the first place. So as your mind generates memory, it's just this kind of thought bubble that it's making. It's not real. Next, sleep. Okay, so when you're sleeping, everything is shut off, right? Unless you're dreaming, that also, either if you're in sleep consciousness or dreaming, those also are illusion. Dreaming is the most obvious one because in our culture, at least, we feel that dreams are not real. That has not been the case in lots of other cultures and periods of history, but in our culture currently, like the Romans felt that dreams were very real, many, many, many cultures throughout the world, shamanic cultures, many East Asian cultures believe that dreams are very real. But, I don't know who's watching this, but, Western Americans, most of my audience is Americans, British, Canadians, Australians, Europeans, we don't actually believe that dreams are real, so that's not a biggie. But what you have to realize is nothing else is either, right? Imagination is the next one, not real. So if you're particularly imagining the future, what might happen. Anxiety is the big one. False evidence appearing real. Anxiety of things that you're imagining that might happen, which if you really think Of all the bad things that you've imagined in your life that are going to happen, how many of them actually have? Not many, I would guess. And of the bad things that had happened in your life, my guess was a lot of them you never saw them coming. You never imagined they would happen. So imagination is also an illusion, and a very destructive one. It can be, although it can be very creative as well. That too is illusion. Next one is misconception, so a misperception of reality. Again, false evidence appearing real. Somebody says something to you, and you take it one way, but they didn't mean it that way. Your brain is misperceiving. You're taking in evidence from the world and constructing a story about it, which is probably not true. Also an illusion. But even finally, correct perception is not true. If you correctly perceive something in the world, and the best example is probably mathematics, right? Our best option for perceiving things correctly. You correctly solve a math problem. That too is just your mind doing things. Even if your brain is working correctly and you are correctly perceiving a situation, that too is a movement, a vacillation of mind. It's probably the most useful one, but it is also not you. It's just if your mind is a tool, you are using the tool correctly, but it's not you. Okay. So 7, and I don't think we'll go too much further than this. I think probably just the first 7 is a good taste. 7, the sources of correct understanding are direct perception, inference, and revelation derived from reflections on the scriptures or from the testimony of one who knows. Okay, I would actually take issue with a lot of this, but let's go backwards, okay? So correct understanding, from the last one, revelations derived from reflections on the scriptures or from the testimony of one who knows. So this is a matter of faith. It is a matter of the Hindu religions from which the Yoga Sutras arise. And that is the idea that since you do not currently know, but if you listen to somebody who does, particularly somebody who has successfully followed the path of meditation, or scriptures, written documents from those who have, then you can get good information. Now, this is true to a certain extent, okay? If you've never meditated and you listen to somebody who has, is much, much further along the path, than like me or my dog who just came through, who is, of course, the Buddha incarnate, then you can be given guideposts towards correct perception. But ultimately, of course, does anyone truly know? I don't actually think so. I don't actually think there is something called enlightenment, by the way. But you can certainly be more developed. You can be better at meditation. You can be more enlightened by meditating. But I don't think there is a final enlightenment. We talk about that in the course. Inference, which means inferential reasoning, you can also understand correctly from, and direct perception. This was, of course, written in the Middle Ages, so I think that by the modern day, I think modern philosophy has probably overturned all of these as correct sources of understanding. So I will leave it there. Where are we? Is everything an illusion? Yes, of course it is, but the practice of yoga, no matter, then, now, has worked for thousands of years. It will work thousands of years from now. It will work when people are on Mars. The practice of yoga will allow you to turn around in the theater, to see the source of consciousness, and to identify yourself with the truth of who you really are, rather than to be thinking constantly that the movie is real. And that transcends any philosophical questions about enlightenment, or schools, or Buddhism versus Hinduism, or what is true questions that are, in to be solved by philosophers. Yoga is a tangible practice. If you do it, you will find out for yourself. If you do it, you will find out for yourself, right? And that is why it is such a profound piece of technology, and always has been in world history. It is a set of methods for finding out yourself that anybody can do, and you don't need to have any type of philosophical or educational background to do, any more than you need to do physical exercise. It is profound. It is a gift to the world, and I feel that it is my one of my primary jobs in this lifetime to be able to